Do you have an update on Yorgos' visa, and is the roster full?
The roster is full. Some of you guys have probably seen that we signed Miguel Berry this morning, traded for him from DC. So that will be the 18th player on our senior roster. We expect to go with 18. We can sign up to 20 on that senior roster, but usually we're going to go with 18 in terms of being able to pay fewer players a little bit more money. So the roster's done. We've signed the 3 players that we said we would, Abram, Yakimakis, and Berry. Before them, obviously, Etienne, an obvious big addition, potential starter for us. So, yes, we don't have any update on the work visa. That's still in process. Abram does have a work visa, so he is eligible. Etienne got a couple minutes in St. Louis, so he should be available for that opening day. But as of right now, we do not know if Gigi is going to be available or not.
Are y'all working on any green cards for the players to clear up some international slots?
Yeah, we're always working on green cards is the answer to that question. The MLS rule, for those who aren't familiar with this type of minutia, is that we have to try to get appointments to have domestic status before the start of the season. So we are in crunch time trying to get a couple of those things lined up in the next 4 or 5 days. If we do that, then those players are treated as domestic players, which frees up an international spot, which then is fungible. So we could trade that to another team. And in fact, you're going to see later today probably the completion of one of those transactions that we've been able to move one of those spots. And I'll wait for those details later in the day. But you guys will see that we anticipate potentially getting one of those, and therefore we're able to move one to another team, take that money and add it to our salary cap.
And what did y'all like about Barry? What does he bring to the team?
Good young player, hard worker. You've heard us talk about from a profile perspective. We've made a massive investment in Almada and Araujo. Those guys are going to carry our team offensively. Acquired Etienne in free agency. So if you look at that band of 3, we feel like we have all 3 of those spots are going to be better than they were last year. Almada and Araujo are going to be a little bit more comfortable, more minutes together. And so we really felt like when we signed that 9, that center forward, we need him to complement that band of 3. So that's true of Gigi, and we think it's true of Barry. We believe we got a durable player because Gigi was not playing all the time in Celtic. So we in this new world where we anticipate playing 40 to 45 games a year, we need 2 guys that are durable up there, and we think both fit this big physical profile that are good complementary players that are going to make the other guys around them better.
The roster's full. It's mostly healthy for the first time in years. You've seen the team in preseason. What are your expectations now for the season?
Expectations are for a home playoff game. I think that's within our grasp. We need to get back to consistently winning. I think in the beginning of the season, we've had to reset some things. Obviously, you've seen us move a number of players out. I've talked already about the players that are coming in. The reality, though, is that Etienne and Yakimakis and Abram have played very limited minutes in terms of being part of the group. So as those guys integrate, as well as we get work permits, first of all, and then they integrate, the team should get better every week for the first month or 2 of the season without doing anything else. So we're really happy about where we are in our progression, that we've gotten all the transactions done before the season. Would we have loved to have done it earlier? Sure, but given the amount that had to come out before we could bring anything in, I think we wound up in a pretty reasonable spot, and we're very excited now about the season.
In Seattle, obviously a lot of notable summer moves. Is there any flexibility still for a possible summer signing?
Yeah, so the big difference structurally here from some of the stuff we've done in Seattle is we have a bunch of players out on loan here. So the significance of that is those players on loan could be sold. So that then builds in flexibility right there, because if you are able to sell one of those players, then potentially you get GAM from the sale. So you could actually wind up with a big bucket of money in the summer. So we have an international spot that's been reserved, saved for the summer as well. So there is that possibility. Now I want to be careful here that we want to give this team a chance to gel and to see where we are, because we do believe that we've made some moves that are good long-term moves for the club, and we've reset the foundation of the club, and that's why we're excited about the season. So if we start making progress, what we don't want to do is just revert back to chopping and changing and changing 4 or 5 players every window. But that said, I believe we're in a very good position such that if there is an opportunity in the summer, we'll be able to take advantage of it.
Are there triggers to some of those loans? Like, for example, Seco Barkley had a trigger with River Plate.
Yep.
Maybe Moreno
Yep.
has a trigger with Ortiga.
There are triggers. I don't want to get into specifics of who with what, but there are triggers that's not uncommon in loans. Some of them are easier to hit than others. What I would say is we wouldn't rely upon any of those to be hit by halfway through the season. Most of the times when you set triggers, they're to do with a full season. So I wouldn't count on any of that coming through for us. But look, we believe that a number of those players on loan are pretty good players. And so if they play well, then there's going to be a market for them. And to state the obvious, I know there's like this mystique associated with me signing players in the summer. It's just because that's when the rest of the world buys and sells players, right? It's the biggest marketplace. And so that way you just have more opportunity to do good deals then.
There were a lot of questions about the infrastructure at the club when you came in, analytics department, scouting. What have y'all done to kind of refresh that and maybe revamp that since you were out?
I was going to say, from a hard infrastructure perspective, let's be clear. This is the best, maybe in the world, between Mercedes-Benz Stadium and the place, with Children's Healthcare out here in Marietta. So the infrastructure is amazing. In terms of some of the soft infrastructure, yes, we've begun building that out. We're closing in on a deal with an analytics consultant. As I told you earlier, we're going to add a data engineer in that department. So really feel good about that. We're going through a total review of all of our player development systems right now as well. And we'll see that stuff probably wouldn't evolve until summer, but I'm really excited about the direction we're headed there. And beyond that, I think we've really drilled down and organized our scouting in a way that's pretty efficient. So feel good about the resources we have here in terms of going forward.
What about sports medicine? Are there going to be any changes to that considering all the injuries last year?
No, but there are going to be changes. There have already been changes in terms of methodology, right? So with sports medicine, with performance, those guys are literally PhD level guys, and the thing that we have to do is listen to them. So when you have the rash of injuries you have, some of it's luck. Sometimes older players are going to get hurt more than younger players. But the thing we have to be mindful too is still to pay attention to periodization and the amount of strain we're putting on our players. And if you get kind of an endemic set of injuries, you have to reevaluate then how you're training and preparing the players. And to be fair, that started before I got here. The guys had pretty detailed answers for that and the things that they were going to tweak on that even before I arrived. So I feel good that we're in a better position now to learn a little bit from some of the things that happened last year.
Is there an example you can give of a change?
I think just so whenever there's an injury, right, there's always this temptation to say, well, he got hurt because of this. But Brad Gazan tore his Achilles for a different reason than Miles Robinson tore his Achilles. It's a totally different profile of player, right? Late 30s versus young mid-20s. So you can't. It's tempting always to make a commonality, but I think one of the problems you can run into is that if you generalize too much, you're not being specific. So the example I would give you just is that we're going back to, we have individual development plans for all the young players, and we have individual training plans for all the senior players, and we're going to make sure that we take the time to accommodate all of those things so that we cater to give them the best possible chance of remaining on the field. And so you'll see, for example, I will give you an example, with somebody like Abram, who's just played a couple minutes, we are not going to panic and say he has to start opening day. He might not, but we're going to err on the side of trying to build these guys up and do so in a sustainable way so that once they get on the field, they can stay on the field, and we hopefully can lower that rate of recidivism in the injury on the injury front.
I know you like to take your time with things, but how have you found the business side of things so far?
It's been really invigorating. I don't know if any of you guys made it out to the block party that we did on the weekend at Atlanta Underground. Super fun. There were so many people there. It was such a good time with the DJ and everybody else around there. So really enjoyed that. It's been so fun getting to know people all over Atlanta. Everyone has been so welcoming and, just getting excited about the season. I mean, we are going to have a full building on the weekend. Still some tickets available, but when you look at it, it is going to be, at worst, top 30 crowd in the world this weekend. So when you think about it in that context, that's pretty cool. And for those who were here at midweek for the AmFam Cup, that was a really successful event. Did a cool laser show at halftime as well. So again, the energy in the building was really, really good. It was a great exercise for us if you looked at how our young players performed, but also just Toluca offered a lot of resistance, right? So we played a very difficult preseason. So we've gotten tested a number of times, and I do think we're in a really good position now, again, as we enter the season. Got a couple of home games here in the early going as well. So some teams traveling long distance distances to us, but we have put our guys, we've put them under stress, and hopefully now they're ready for that when we open against San Jose. And again, when you step out on that field and you got a full building like we're going to have, it's going to be fun.
Any homegrown signings expected to go into effect, I assume, January 1st next year?
Well, look, between now and next year, I do think we'll sign some homegrowns, but nothing that's going to happen in the next 4 days.
Okay,
ahead of
nothing
the-
will work. Okay.
Yep.
MLS Next Pro, how is that going to help the franchise? Are the players going to, is there more freedom for the players to come back and forth between the senior team and MLS Next Pro compared to when it was USL?
No changes to the rules. So, and I recognize this is the first year in MLS Next Pro for Atlanta United. It's 4 games that the guys can move in between teams. So, but what we're doing from a development, I told you we're revamping the whole development process, but we're really going to be focused around our 15s, our 17s, our 2s, and then our first team. That's the progression. Those are the 10-pole teams we're going to have. Those are the age groups at which MLS has national leagues from a development standpoint. So, what the function of the 2s is going to be is to get minutes for, because we have a number of young players signed with the first team, as you guys know. So it'll be those kids coming down to play, and it'll be the kids pushing up from the 17s kids signed to the 2s, that group. So we're really excited about that young group, broadly speaking. They're going to get a ton of experience there. And then, look, the best ones, we will be able to sign to the first team. So that's the opportunity. I think pulling them up for a game here, game there, we're worried less about that just because we have a number of young players signed already. So it's not a bodies issue for us. It's long-term, how can we progress these kids in the best possible way for them and for us.
I know you said you feel like you're in a good position, but can you just talk about the excitement heading into the regular season on Saturday?
Absolutely. Just for me, I'm like coming, my kind of first time in the building for an opener. I mean, that just is, you saw what it looked like on Wednesday when we were kind of doing a dry run for everything. So I can only imagine what it's going to feel like when it's just packed to the rafters. So really excited that way. And again, our fan base has been so enthusiastic, at the block party on the weekend stuff, hordes of people coming up and just you could feel their energy and their enthusiasm for the start of the season. And look, things have been a little bit rough here over the last couple of years, right? And you look at some of the data, right? Like we led the league in shots, but we are one of the poorest teams in terms of goals. So you should see some correction to the mean in terms of some of those data analytics. You should have, knock on wood, fewer injuries this year as well, given the adjustments that we've made. So I think you got a bunch of things that are kind of lingering in the background that start building, and if we kind of have some positive momentum, if we believe in ourselves, we really feel like culturally this is the best locker room we've had in a while. So I think there's a number of positive things that feed into our enthusiasm for the beginning of the season.
What makes you feel that culturally this is the best locker room you guys have had in a while?
I think that we've gotten a bunch of good young players that have real opportunity to grow within the club, and I think we have really good leaders, in terms of the veteran guys who want to mentor these kids, who want to bring them along. And if you looked at the group cohesion, when you go to a preseason in Mexico like we did, one of the positives of that is the guys have to spend a lot of time together. And so by all accounts, that was a really successful cultural move for us. And then you look at a game again like Toluca, AmFam Cup, right? If you look again, we lost the game, it's disappointing, but in preseason you're always focused on process, not on results. So if you looked at, for example, the integration between the young players and the older players. So in that first half, you had 3, and I think at the end even 4 kids under 23 that were out there. And they looked like they belonged, right? They looked like they fit in. They were part of that cohesive whole. And then in the second half, they took it to Toluca, right? And it was a real competitive game. So those things I look at and say, hey, culturally, it looks like we're going the right direction because that group is cohesive. They appear to believe in each other, and they appear to be supporting each other. And those are really important things as we head into the season.
You said a couple of minutes ago that things have been rough around here the last couple of seasons. How imperative was it for you to be transparent as soon as you got here, and how receptive do you think people have been to that?
Well, people say nice things to me, but I think they probably have to do that, right? You guys are all nodding nervously. No, look, I'd like to think that I've earned the benefit of the doubt in terms of my track record, my resume. And look, I just want us to be accessible. We have a generational opportunity right now to build the audience for Atlanta United. We want to be the hub of soccer in North America. So whether that's recruiting U.S. soccer to move their home base here, but it's also hosting, games with EPL teams, potentially Copa America in 2024, the Club World Cup in 2025, the World Cup coming obviously in 26. So we want to be broadly accessible accessible. We want to look like Atlanta. We want to reflect the makeup, the diversity. If you look at the audience, we have, by demographics, the most diverse, youngest audience of the major pro sports. So those are things that we really want to lead into. And transparency is part and parcel with that. When you look at that younger generation, the more tech-savvy generation, what are they used to? They're used to total access, right? Whether that's in a locker room, whether that's off the field. And, we intend to be in step with that. And look, that means we're going to be criticized for some things more often because we're going to be more open. But I think that's good for us. That helps us learn. We need to be confident enough in our process that, look, I'll look you all in the eye and say we're not going to get everything right. We never will. And I hope you call us when we get stuff wrong. But I hope you also note when we do some things right. And if we do that and we're transparent, I think we'll win more often than we won't. And hopefully build momentum where this is sustainable success over multiple years.
To work over with the Seattle Sounders, you can get the many trophies. What expectations with Luis Abram now in Atlanta?
Abram, he was off to a great start. He played some minutes against St. Louis. The coaching staff was very happy with him. Again, we're going to try to ramp him up slowly, so I'm not sure what his status will be for the weekend. But look, I think comparing him to Rui Diaz, I think that's really tough. I mean, you're talking about one of the best strikers in the history of the league. So, after Joseph Martinez, of course. But Abram, we have very high hopes for. We brought him in as a starting player. We think he's a guy. He and Thiago actually played together going back a couple of years ago. So again, culturally, it's been a good fit in the locker room. And we obviously have to give up fewer goals than we did last year, and we have to be better organized. But I think specifically the pairing of Abram, who's a very cerebral player, likes to use his head, reads the game very well, with Miles, a very athletic player. They should complement each other very, very well. The other thing is Abram is left-footed. We did not have a purely left-footed player to play out of the back last year, so I think he helps us on a couple of fronts. It's the right pairing of center backs, and I think it'll help us relieve pressure because a bunch of teams, you want to talk about the difference between Seattle and Atlanta, there's many more teams in the East that press than in the West, so if you have to deal with that pressure, having a left-footed center back is going to help us with that.
How active is the team being in recruiting that U.S. soccer facility to Atlanta?
Look, I'm talking about it every time I can. So if you guys know anybody up in Chicago, tell them they're going to be welcome down here in the South. Look, we are obviously having conversations, and it's something that, again, if we want to talk about how do we look like Atlanta, how do we serve our community long term, how do we get into some of these underprivileged communities and make them soccer fans, and again, we have this generational opportunity to build this fan base. There will never be more awareness for soccer than there is between now and 2026, and so this is the kind of thing where if U.S. Soccer relocates here, I think that makes a ton of sense, right? With the airport, the crown jewel of Atlanta, literally people can come all over. The weather is great down here, and as compared to some of the other, it's great today. That's my fault. I brought it from Seattle, but from what I understand, it's sunny here a lot. But no, when you talk about, for example, your men's and women's national teams are going to be based somewhat in Europe and somewhat in the U.S., right? Atlanta is in fact a very central location then, in addition to just having the airport in terms of flights from all over the world. And so now if you can get training fields that are set up in a block, it makes too much sense not to do it. So we are enthusiastically in favor of U.S. Soccer coming down here.
How would you characterize those conversations? Is it just, hey, we'd love to have you, or is it more specific? Is Arthur Blank involved in these discussions?
AMBSC is involved. I don't know that it comes down to one person. I mean, I am not going to single-handedly woo, the U.S. Soccer down here, nor is anyone else. But so those conversations are happening on several levels. Obviously, I've been more the public voice of it, but in private, we're definitely pursuing that and pursuing it across multiple pathways. And look, U.S. Soccer is itself in some upheaval right now, right? There's been lots of coverage about that. So we certainly work with them, and they're going to make this decision about what's best for them long term. But look, it's certainly hopeful, and those conversations will be ongoing.
Is there a timeline or deadline they're trying to hit?
Nope. Well, I mean, not. I mean, that's up to them, right? It's their organization. So whether they have a timeline or not, you'd have to ask
I didn't
them.
know if they told you.
No, nothing like that. No, and then look, I'm sure I know there's been a couple places reported in the media on positive U.S. Soccer is looking at all their options and not just the ones that have been reported. So it's a broad process, but we're willing to be patient. And again, I think this is very much part of the long-term plan of Atlanta becoming Atlanta, and again, Mercedes-Benz. Somebody asked the infrastructure question, like when you have Mercedes-Benz and it's one of the best stadiums in the world for any sport. you get to host all of these high-profile events. And again, that could be really, really good for Atlanta United, right? We haven't talked about the Apple deal. What does the Apple deal do? It may be transformational for MLS. That's our hope. We'll see. But I have zero doubts that it is going to be amazing for Atlanta United, because people are going to turn on the stream all over the world and they're going to see 50,000 plus in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, you know, again, one of the top 30 crowds in the world on an off day, and they're going to say, I want to come play here. And you know, and you take a, you know, you Google us online, you look at this training facility. I mean, the infrastructure here is amazing. This is a great place to play. It's a great place to live, and we are going to get better just by virtue of being on Apple and being broadcast on, you know, that's the largest consumer electronics company in the world. And so we're really excited about that.
Just a few more, Doug, go ahead.
Have you been told what the playoff format is going to be this year?
I have been, but I haven't been told that I'm allowed to share it with you. I do think as soon as today, but definitely this week, we will have a playoff format, and I would be happy to talk to you all about that once that is finalized and announced.
All right.
Anything else for Garth?
Have you been to the varsity yet?
I've not been to the varsity.
Has anything surprised you coming to Atlanta about?
The weather's been awful.
Besides that, anything with regarding the club?
With regard to club, you know what I would say is I think that there's been a real willingness to evolve and change. When you're the new guy, when you come in, and my predecessor Darren Eales, obviously highly respected, held in very high regard internally, externally, and he did things a certain way for 8 years, and so there was some apprehension as to, you know, would folks want to go in a different direction? And I think there's been real enthusiasm and open-mindedness, and I've really appreciated that in terms of the evolution of the club. For sure, we're going to do some things differently. You guys will see that, I think, in your day-to-day as we go forward. But I also feel like it's hardly like we have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We have some starting points. Again, some of the ones that we didn't all agree with, we've now moved out, and so I feel really good again about our foundation. And I do get excited when we talk about starting the season, because what we need to do now is get these guys on the field, get them playing together, and I honestly think we're just going to go up and up and up from here.
Can you give an example of what you might have moved out?
Look, I think when you talk about moving guys out, I don't want to act like any of those guys were bad players or that they were bad attitudes or anything like that. That's not the case. What you had to do is get efficient contracts. And when you talk about things you want to do, I've talked about looking like Atlanta. I've talked about being the hub of soccer in North America. The third kind of pillar, third leg of the stool is making our investments in a strategic manner. I think Atlanta, to some degree, because of the fan support, has had more resources than a lot of other teams. And I think there's been an ability to solve things with money and just say, hey, well, if we want that, we go get it. But what I've seen since I've been here is a more strategic approach to it. So you still have the same amount of resources, but if you can do it strategically, if you can do it methodically, if you can do it based off a good process, then those dollars are going to have more impact. And I think that's what we have done already. And so with some of those contracts, again, not good or bad in terms of players or personalities, but to move toward efficiency in terms of paying for premium positions, paying guys in the spine of the team, and then being efficient in our acquisitions, both as we go forward and in terms of our progressions, right? Part of the reason to revamp player development is to look at how do we push these guys on rookie contracts forward in a way that allows us to spend more money on the marquee guys who are game winners for us.
Just curious, what do you define as premium positions in MLS?
I think it's the spine by and large. That's overly simplified, but I mean, to state the obvious, if you look at any expected goals model ever made, the guys that are closest to the goals have the biggest impact on the model, right? So your center forward and your goalkeeper, right? The way we built this team, as we talked about, the center forward is probably more of a complement than the tip of the spear, so to speak, because of the investment in the midfield. And so again, one of our biggest investments is at right wing in Araujo, right? So we then need to set this up. And we don't need to have a dogmatic approach like it has to be this and it can only be this way. But you have to look at what do the analytics suggest if these are your two investments, and then how do you complement those players to put them in a position to succeed, because those are the guys that are going to drive us forward in terms of, you know, being a contender.
How do you feel about midfield as a group?
I think the midfield as a group, we have, again, a number of different talented players. I mean, you saw young players like a Johnny Fortune have good debuts. I'm excited about what the future holds for him. I think we have some other guys that are settling into their roles. It'll obviously help us when Sosa's available. But look, Thiago's been great. And Luis has been great. So I think we're going to get Etienne on the field. So again, I think it's another one. Are we a work in progress? Yeah. But are we moving forward? Is it getting better? It really is, again, only going to get better, and it's only going to get deeper from our starting point now. So again, I think we handled the situations that were inefficient, and we put the other guys in a position to succeed, and now we just got to let that happen.
Perfect. Anything else for Garth? Thanks, everyone.
You've been described by both Garth and Carlos as a cerebral, kind of calm defender. Would you agree with that?
Calm in the way of with the ball. I would say calm with the ball. I would like to play with the ball, to start playing from behind, and I would call calm with the ball. Yeah.
Okay.
What have you thought of your fellow center backs so far, Miles and Juanjo and Noah?
They are very good players. That's why they are in a good team in Atlanta United. They have so much qualities to be here.
Do you feel like your skill set can complement them? Can you
Yeah,
make each other better?
yeah, sure. I have the qualities to complement with them, and I'm sure we're gonna achieve our goals.
Do you feel comfortable with the tactics you're being asked to execute? Is it familiar to you? Gonzalo Pineda's system?
Yeah. Gonzalo, I'm familiar with the tactical system of Gonzalo. I play with Heinze that have the similar style. So yeah.
Can you tell us about where you're at in your career? Why Atlanta United now? And what do you hope to get out of it?
No, it's a league that has been grown a lot. Carlos and Gonzalo told me about se me fue la palabra. The project of the club. So I like it, and I no lo dudé.
And I didn't hesitate.
I didn't hesitate.
Yeah, I didn't doubt it.
I didn't doubt it.
When the club showed interest, did you reach out to Thiago just to kind of ask him about the team from y'all's time at Valise?
I've seen some matches of Atlanta United, so no hubo necesidad.
So there was no need. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Luis,
well,
how do you feel about, first of all, happy early birthday, by the way.
Not yet, but thank you.
How does it feel to be in Atlanta for a club that's, sort of got a new look this year compared to, how they've been the last few years?
No, it's great. It has a fantastic training center. I'm very happy to be here, and I will work to achieve the goals that we have.
What's your fitness right now? Garth said that they have you on a plan, said don't count on you starting on Saturday. Where are you physically?
Yeah, I'm working to be at my 100%, but obviously I don't play a 90 minutes match since October, I think, so
Okay.
I'm not yet at my 100%.
What has this team sort of discussed I'm sure there has, overall goals for the season? Is it sort of a game-by-game type thing, or is there a broad goal for this team?
Sorry?
yeah, just repeat it one more time.
Yeah, is there a broad goal for this team, or is it more of like a game-by-game basis, one game at a time type thing?
Yeah, we go game by game. Now we're thinking in San Jose, but our goal is the championship. Yeah.
How do you and Miles, how do y'all, in the time you've been there trained, which I know is not much, how have y'all worked together?
¿Cómo vas con Miles? ¿Cómo ha sido esa dupla en los?
Good. I understand very good English, so it doesn't a problem the language. So we understand very good.
Did you know David Mejia before you came here?
I've seen some videos. Yeah, very good player.
And what are you most looking forward
I
to
got you.
about Saturday, starting a new season with a new club?
No, we are very excited about the match here in our home with our fans. So it's going to be fantastic.
Go ahead in Spanish.
A ver, bueno, Luis, bienvenido aquí a Atlanta y quería preguntarte por qué Atlanta y si hablas con unos de tus compañeros de la liga y también de la selección sobre la liga acá.
Bueno, como recién comenté en inglés hace un ratito, es una liga que ha crecido mucho. Carlos y Gonzalo me comentaron sobre el proyecto que tenía el club, me interesó mucho, no lo pensé y vine para aquí.
¿Y has hablado con unos de tus compañeros sobre la liga con Pedro, Raúl?
No, no, sé que es una liga que ha crecido muchísimo, está en un nivel excelente, está para venir a crecer y seguir aportando y eso.
¿Crees que, bueno, acá estuvo Callens en Nueva York y vimos el nivel que demostró también en la selección peruana? ¿Crees que también esa es una buena oportunidad para que sigas peleando por ese puesto y ser el titular?
Sí, la verdad Callens ha crecido muchísimo, me alegro mucho por él y siempre está, ¿no? El entusiasmo de poder aportar a la selección.
Vi en tus redes sociales que estabas con David Mejía, conversando con él, es un chico que también ha estado en los microciclos de la selección peruana. ¿Has jugado con él, has entrenado con él? ¿Cómo es el ambiente? ¿Te ha hecho sentir en casa también?
Sí, no, la verdad que David me recibió muy bien, muy contento cuando entró el otro día a jugar y nada, estamos en eso, a ver si puede seguir sumando minutos.
Uno de los clásicos de aquí de Atlanta es contra Orlando. ¿Te emociona saber que vas a enfrentarte a dos de tus compañeros, que es Pedro Galese y Julio Cartagena?
No, sí, siempre es lindo enfrentar a compañeros lejos de tu país, ¿no? Así que sí, contento.
Y bueno, para terminar, ¿qué opinas que la selección todavía va a empezar hasta septiembre y te da oportunidad de adaptarte, de llegar a buen ritmo? Viene también la League Cups, que va a ser un torneo importante contra México. ¿Cómo crees que viene esa adaptación de la MLS hasta septiembre, que va a ser las eliminatorias?
No, de hecho me ayuda muchísimo que haya ese tiempo para poder recuperar mi nivel, estar al 100% y cuando lo requiera Juan, estar ahí.
Y con Almada jugaste, ¿verdad? En Vélez.
Sí, con
Teo.
Teo.
La conexión con él.
Sí, a Teo lo conozco ya hace bastantes años, tuve la suerte de jugar con él en Vélez, ahora es campeón del mundo, así que contento de tenerlo nuevamente como compañero.
How does having this is going to be a silly question. How does having a left-footed center back help Atlanta with its build-up play?
El hecho de que eres zurdo, ¿cómo ayuda en la salida?
I think it's gonna be very good because obviously left controls better that side. So, but also Purata or Miles can play there, so there's not a big deal in that.
And have you've played in a 2 and a 3 center back system?
Yeah, I've played in the two ways.
You're
Yeah.
comfortable with?
Yeah, it doesn't a problem. Yeah,
What do you feel your strengths are as a player?
I have a good what I do.
Yeah, I'm good in the air.
Yeah, I like to play from behind, good crosses, cambio de juego,
¿En qué sentido?
long balls.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You play in a high line too?
Si puedes jugar en una línea alta.
yeah, sí. Mhm.
From what you've seen with Atlanta United, with how they played last year versus this year, how would you say to fans of the team how this team will be different this year?
I've seen the team with a high intensity in the trainings. I like that. With the ball, very good. So I think gonna be very interesting.
Where did you learn English? Out of curiosity.
In school, I have my school teach English, so I learned from there.
That's cool.
Very good. All right, anything else? Good. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Nice to meet you.
All right.